I'm Alan Davis. I'm here with Stephen Lawlor. I'm the art intern here in IT Carlow. And one of Stephen's works is hanging in the LRC, and it's illium. It's an etching. Um, Stephen, can you talk a little bit about illium and the inspiration behind that image? And am I pronouncing the title correctly?
You are pronouncing the title correctly. Ilium is the Greek name for Troy. What
Yeah.
we call Troy, the Greeks called Ilium, and hence the Iliad. But the Trojans were horse people. So on their shields, you'll see it in the cinema. On their shields, there are horses' heads. That was the emblem of the city, or the city state. So they were horse people, as the Irish are horse people. So I kind of felt that connection was great, between them and ourselves. There's also mythology that follows what happens after the Trojan Wars and the destruction of the city. They claim that the remnants of the Trojan aristocracy and army can basically fanned out in different directions, but there is some evidence of them founding new cities along the North African coast, and even landing on the Italian coast and founding places because wherewithal to do that. And I don't know enough historically about it, but that's as far as I've read about what happened to them afterwards. But Ilium, I don't know. There's something magical about the idea of a horse people
within the image of illium itself. It does conjure up that this is not just a figure of a horse, but there's something else going on there as well.
Yeah, I mean there is that symbiotic relationship between humans and horses too, that is timeless. It goes back so far in time, and in fact brought on the human race beyond. It's I suppose it speeded up our development because we could move faster. It connected people, being able to move swiftly on horseback. But
yes, and especially the horse is a beast of burden as well, and you had
absolutely.
possibly back then. I wonder would there have been sports and races with the horses and.
I'm sure there were, and chariot races and just bareback races. You see them in amphitheaters everywhere, all over Greece. What am I trying to say? Yes, and I suppose there is something classical about specifically that print, and there's a sort of a misty fog of something behind them. It's quite an old print. I don't remember it exactly, but I do remember. So you asked the question about not only what it was about and creating that sort of mythological atmosphere, as well as the sort of classical attitude of the two horses in it. It's quite funny how two figures, even two human figures, will do that. They don't contend for space within an image, but they certainly work off each other. Something strange happens when you present more than one figure. But anyway, I was very happy with that print. So there's 4 plates, first of all, with most of my prints. So the master plate is always the darkest plate with all the lines and, let's say, the density of the final image. The other 3 plates are colors underneath that you allow to come through where you want them to come through, and obviously not where you want them to come through. So you're controlling.
So I was just about to say there's an element of control to the work.
Absolutely, you're controlling tone and color. So as time went on, I got more proficient at doing that in terms of painting acid on. So the acid will bite the aquatint. So I paint 100% strength acid, ferric chloride, actually, not really acid, but it's a corrosive.
I think this leads to my second question, actually. Yeah. Which is the image seems to be layered. And does this process then, making an image like illium, would it involve more than one action going through a printing press?
Well, if there's 4 plates, it has to go through 4 times for each print. So you print 1 plate, you peel back the paper, you mark where the first plate was, take it out, put the second one in. the paper goes back down and rolls back through. So you get exact positioning each
Yeah.
time. And so what you're doing
and
is
a great deal of accuracy there to get the image back in and
absolutely.
yeah.
And so it's in terms of density, dark aquatint over dark aquatint 4 times. You're getting the really sort of succulent, dense ink where you want it most strong, and everything in between that and white is a matter of controlling, removing a bit of color on plate number 2, and you know what I mean, and allowing it to come through on the final plate. So those colors are the range of tones from white to black is extensive, huge.
Yeah, I'm finding this is interesting because as my work is mostly done on Photoshop, anything I've done digitally, and that will involve layers.
Yes.
So the layering in a Photoshop image and the layering on a printed image going through a printing press, I'd say there's a little bit of relativity there.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that's printmaking is a medium that kind of, it sits on the border of so many different things, you know. I mean, I don't mean just technically and physically, but also, you know, it's a medium that is, that wanders into, posters for public consumption, art for the people, really. But it being printed is quite an interesting and layered, as you say, is an interesting way to develop. I'm sorry, exactly what I did in developing my own work, seeing it as the more you can control that fluid. And when I said to you I was painting acid on to each of the 4 plates, I put them all down together and painted on. Now I've offset the first plate onto the last plate, the master plate, onto the other 3, and then mark where those, let's say where the horse figures are. I can see it. Right. And then so I know how to bite it. I either bite the background and stop out the horses, or stop out the background and bite the horses. You know, in other words, object on background and background behind object. I can control that and bite them at different times.
Yeah.
But in painting acid on, you get this very fluid, dense, solid, 100% strength acid and water next to it. The acid runs into the water and weakens as it goes in. So you're getting this very human touch. It's not into a bath of acid that's uniform everywhere. You're getting darks and lights over each other.
Fluid. It's an absolutely striking image.
Yeah.
You've done oil painting, printing, sculpture. They all feature in your work. Now, out of those disciplines, do you have a favorite medium to work with?
I wouldn't call myself a sculptor. Somebody suggested to me, and again, because of the horses, he said they don't really look like real horses, those horses that you make. They look a bit like 3-dimensional objects, and they should be 3-dimensional objects. And I thought, I don't know, I have enough trouble with 2 dimensions. So, but I entered into it and made a number of horses, in fact, probably from the early 2000s to now, in bronze. And I have to say, it's very daunting. So I got some help with armatures, just getting the right proportions. But once I got beyond that, I could remake them myself in oil-based clay first of all, and then sometimes in wax. But
I like to. And then from the oil-based clay and the wax, would you make like a bronze? You're making bronze.
Yeah, the foundry would make a mold for me and then make a bronze. We might sometimes even work on the bronze and then make another mold and then another, a new horse.
Okay, so it's a process and reprocess.
Exactly, and so the sculpture came out of the printmaking, came out of those horses, and I have to sort of, I suppose, go back slightly further than the illium. I as a young man, I grew up in Bath Avenue in Sandymount, on the border of Ringsend. My mother's family comes from Ringsend, so we're working class people. In case anyone gets the wrong idea, I'm a D4 type person. Okay. But so we went to the horse show every summer, myself and my mates, right? And we get over the back wall and we just mess around, basically.
Yeah, okay.
Get up to no good. But not in the main arena, which we didn't have tickets to get into, in the warming up arena, which is like it's open to the public. and people just wander around.
Yeah.
You would see these people warming their horses up before going into to do their jumps, their series of jumps. And so David Broom and Harvey Smith and all those huge show jumping stars, you'd see them close up, like I'm talking about 2 feet away.
Oh, yeah.
And so those impeccably groomed animals, they're much heavier than racehorses. They have a huge sort of physical presence. So
yeah,
that for me, I was astonished.
From growing up here in rural Ireland,
Yeah.
having access to land and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've worked with farmers as a team, and one of those farmers had horses, and you do appreciate the power within a horse,
Yeah,
especially when it steps on your foot.
I'm sure you would, or
Yeah.
knock you
Yeah.
over. Yes, I mean
Yeah.
the strength and power is way beyond our own physically.
Yeah.
But the feeling of a person, what's it called? Because they would be turning. I'd always stand at the corner. They'd come and turn, and you hear the heavy breathing as he's getting it, as your man is pulling the reins back to trying to pace him to turn at the right point, at the right speed, so as he can gather momentum for the next jump. But it was just astonishing to watch for me that the symbiosis that physically the rider is trying to move the horse as exactly as he wants him. So they are becoming one in some way. It's a weird thing.
Have you ever been on horseback?
Once. It didn't go too well.
and how did you find the experience?
I'm fine. I wasn't disappointed by it, but I just thought there's too much to learn here. I can't do it. I have too much else going on in my life. No, I was never that drawn to it. But
it brings me back to one of my own memories, that the first time I was on a horse was in Kerry, going through the one of the gaps down there that they have the tourists going, and there was a shortage on good horses. And the guy asked me, have you been around horses before? I said, yeah, but I've never really ridden on it. He said, sure, you'll be okay with this one. And he gave me the wildest horse he could find. And it reacted with a JCB that was nearby, and it reared up on its back legs, and I still managed to stay on and live to tell the tale.
Wow.
So yeah,
it's
really
pretty scary.
Yeah,
I'd say it was very scary.
I found it to be fun, but I doubt if anyone, many people would find that same.
No, it sounds pretty. I mean, anything could happen. Falling from that height, it's not.
Been at your artist talk, and you were talking about a supernatural story of an experience you had in Sweden at a guest house, and there was a new interesting newspaper headline that emerged from it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I go back. I'm actually going back there in January in a few weeks' time to work again. And so well, before COVID, I used to go once or twice a year, at least twice, and work there. I always enjoy it. It's peaceful, and it's a beautiful setting. It's in the middle of a forest, away from the city, in the countryside. So, and it's a very nice, it's an art center. So I can paint and I can print as well.
Is it like a residency then, Stephen, as such?
Yes and no. It is a residency, yes, but they don't advertise it. They don't, they don't. It's not. They have 2 or 3 different exhibition spaces, and you can print etchings or silk screens as well. And I think most of the people that go there are Swedish. They have a few outside people like myself who have become sort of family members nearly. But so it is a residency. Yes, you could say that. But yeah, so I was there. It's quite a long after the actual event, like a few years after the event. One of the family who runs they have a cafe, restaurant, and gallery space. She said, I have a friend from the newspaper in North Shipping. He wants to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay, whatever. So she said about the ghost, I said, yeah, okay. So he came the following day. She said, he doesn't say much. He's kind of quiet. I said, oh, all right. I can answer his questions anyway. His English isn't great, she said, but I'll be there. I said, okay. He started to ask me about the seeing what I saw, my experience, and should I tell you that quickly for
Yeah,
your
sure.
yeah? So I was in on my first residency or second one there, and I'd gone we had an opening the following morning, so the Irish ambassador was up there to open it. So after the opening, we would have had a meal and some drinks and whatever. But the night before, Anders, who's the director, said we'll have some schnapps. I said, no, Anders, come on. After the opening, we can have a bit of a party. I said, I'm really tired. I traveled from Ireland that day. It was -19, snow, about a meter high snow all around, but except on the roadways. So I said, and he was disappointed, but I went back to bed early, and they put us in this old manor house, 16th century wooden building. Yeah, the basement is stone, and the foundations and basement are stone, and then the wooden structures built on top. But it had been refurbished, beautiful, really to a high level. So anyway, I was going to sleep and had turned the light off and saw these swirling circles of smoke at the end of my bed, and I didn't know what they were. They were glowing because I switched off the light. I could still hear the landlady talking to two people downstairs all the way through this. So that's why I knew I wasn't sleeping. I was still connected to the real world, you know. So yeah, and I remember looking at those circles and thinking, what the hell are they? And then I just kept staring at them, and then two smaller ones formed around them, and then a bigger one around the outside. So I kind of knew what I thought originally were big eyes turned out to be cheekbones. They were, just like somebody drawing a figure almost in smoke, and so in glowing smoke. So then kind of nose, ears, hair, mouth, eyes, neck, shoulders, all slowly started to form in this swirling.
A smoky spectral image.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'd seen, Ghostbusters. Yeah. But anyway, so she's once I realized, and it had to be a couple of minutes to think, Jesus, it's a woman, because I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just a jumble of forming, shapes forming, and because they were all moving around each other, and then slowly this full figure emerged, and I thought it's a human. First I thought it's human, then I thought it's a woman. So she lunged at me with her teeth snarling, and I lashed out with my foot, and it disappeared. Yeah. And so I searched under the bed. I opened the wardrobe, and I could open the door to my room. All room doors in Sweden open outwards. I don't know why, but anyway, I opened the door, and I could still hear the landlady talking to two English artists who were coming in. And so it kind of freaks you out. I was freaked out, but I think I lay down. I didn't feel any bad feeling in the room. Didn't feel negative or cold or scary. So I thought, well, okay, that was very strange, and I went to sleep. So,
so it didn't bother you too much.
It did bother me, but I thought, because I told them how tough I was before I went to bed, because Anders had said, which room are you staying in? I said, well, the one at the top of the stairs. Oh, you shouldn't be staying in that room. I said, yeah, give me a break, will you? I said, I'm from Ringsend. So I was all, what's the word? Feeling.
Yeah.
No, feeling tough, nothing can affect me. However, it certainly did affect me. And it's only afterwards when your brain has time to catch up with itself. Because what your brain is telling you when you see something like that, this isn't real. This can't be real. This is like, it's like seeing something elevating or God knows what, a spaceship maybe. But anyway, so he came to interview me, and I told him exactly that story. And he said to me, yes, Mr. Lawlor. He said, so where did you kick the woman? Well, I said, I don't know. I said, I was lying down. She attacked me. She was standing up, and said she came towards me. And he said, around the middle of the body. I said, well, somewhere there, yeah. The groin, would you say? I said, well, I don't know. In the groin, yes, perhaps in the groin. I don't know. So he off he went, and it was only a few days later. One of my friends came in with the newspaper. They were all laughing and put it on the table. And I said, what? It's in Swedish. I can't understand it. So they said, this says here, Irish artist kicks Swedish woman in the groin in her own house. I thought, oh crap, because I just thought, well, I have to laugh though, because he was.
You know what? So there's no such thing as bad publicity, right?
Exactly. I mean, he's looking for a good headline to please his boss, I suppose, and it's as good as any. But it changed my. I think I read your question there. It changed my attitude to work to what I was making. And I started looking at women specifically in period costumes, and then women from the past, powerful women or not so powerful women, from the pantheon of Western painting. And so you start to sort of, let's say, latch onto or investigate, explore people like Madame de Pompidou or Elizabeth I, or, you know, and try and figure out how they negotiated their time as women, because certainly it wasn't easy for them. And I mean, I'm the wrong person to be talking about that, because I don't have that much affinity. I'm sort of well, I'm a man, first of all, but secondly, previously it had not interested me that much, but after that it certainly did.
Well, for you, like the apparition as such wasn't real, so can you connect with something that's not real, other than that your reaction is to push it away? So yeah.
Well, to push it, you mean physically when it happened?
Pardon?
You mean push it away physically when it happened, when I saw it?
Exactly.
Well, no, if she'd stayed where she was, I would have done nothing.
No, you would have been more, yeah, you would have been more appreciative of her presence.
Exactly. And so for some reason she didn't want me there. But I did meet a medium. A woman came again a year after that. A woman came to interview me from Vasteros, another big town, other direction. And she said to Anders, she said, "Oh, Anders introduced us and said she wants to talk to you about your exhibition." I had an exhibition at that time of women, believe it or not, paintings of women, prints of women, and some of them semi-real, some of them, you know, realistic, quite figurative.
So you could say that the experience changed your practice in a way.
Absolutely. And I said to her, she said, "So you saw this woman in that house over there?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But," I said, "I could tell you," I said, "he doesn't believe me. So there's no point me telling you about it." Because at that time, early on, certainly, if I told that story, you get mixed reactions, and some of them are quite, people laugh at you. So you just don't tell it too often. So, but this woman turned out to be a medium, and as well as an art critic. So she told me that, she said, "Don't be worried about it." She said, and I said, "Why would she? What did I do to her to make her attack me?" And she said, "Well, nothing." She said, "You know, it takes a massive amount of energy for her to form like that." Now I said, "Well, so I don't really understand that. What does that mean?" Well, she said the spirits don't have the ability to make themselves just visible, just like that. They have to use energy to do it, and they either have to store it up or take it from somewhere else. She said, "And perhaps you yourself are a medium and you don't even know it." I said, "Well, I don't know." And she said, "Well, sometimes I know somebody else who stayed in the same room, you see, a friend of mine who is quite curmudgeonly, and nothing appeared to him. He was disappointed, but I would have preferred nothing appeared to me." But she said, "Look, if she appeared to you and did that, she has a reason to do that. And look at this exhibition, 50 pieces of art and sculpture too, all based on women. Isn't that something?"
It is something. Yeah, well,
to tell you.
So definitely an experience, a life-changing experience.
Yeah.
So in your opinion then, Stephen, what would you think would make a successful image? But not in terms of sale or fame or anything, but just to satisfy your own creative spirit itself.
Oh, well, I looked at that question too. It's an interesting question. And I don't know why, but when you look at a piece of art you've made in the past, sometimes, I mean, it goes on day to day. If you're, I don't like the word practice, but for all intents and purposes, that's what it is. So you come in the next morning thinking, great, what I made yesterday was just fantastic. I was on a roll. And you look at it and you go, oh my God, it's terrible. Or the reverse can happen, where
there is a point where some images, they say, have to pass through an ugly stage before they get beautiful. So I guess there's an element of that in it as well, because I know of artists who look at their work and go, "Oh my God, what was I thinking at the time when I made that?"
Exactly, but the reverse is true as well. So you have to be kind to yourself, and you look at something you thought was terrible, and I wouldn't let it out if it was terrible. I thought it was terrible. Okay, so there's a certain point or level of competence or, quality where you're gonna.
mm,
I know artists who let things go too quickly, I think, but you know, sometimes, and it happens occasionally when you make an image, and I don't know what it is. It's about the composition, obviously, the tonality, the color, the darkness, the light, and all those things combined that tell you. And it's been said to me before, and I like to think this is true, that the images that I make them to last. So when you look at them, you think, oh, that's interesting. And you look a bit longer and you see something else and you think, oh. And so it's almost like some sort of spiritual effect it has on you. The longer you look at it, the better it gets. And if you revisit it the next day or the next week, if it's on your wall at home, it doesn't fade. Because so there's quite a lot of visual art that you'd see around that on initial impact looks interesting and promising and bold, but on sustained looking doesn't hold up to it. So yeah, it's been said to me that my work requires a bit of looking, and
yeah,
I'm kind of glad to hear that.
what you've just said has brought a lesson back from my degree show, or no, from my degree, sorry, that
Hmm.
Ronan Batt has had a thing about an image having a punctum, and that punctum is what impacts the people when you see it, and
Hmm.
it's more about how one person can view an image and how it affects them, and how another person would view it and it wouldn't have that effect on them. It's a very interesting take on it. So I guess
Absolutely.
what I'm trying to, I'm lost for a word now. um, what I'm trying to
Well,
say, yeah, yeah,
is there some sort of unison then between the artist and those that do connect with the piece of art that they're making? Do you know what I mean? Is there something in common between those two, but not with the people who can't sort of engage or relate to it?
that's yeah, maybe so, and maybe even your relatives might like your work more than a stranger would work, because they know what you're about, and might know a little bit more history about what
Yeah.
you've done to do this,
I
and
you
and
know
how that makes them feel then would be different as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying. I mean, sometimes it's funny. It's funny how art is viewed. I mean, when an artist, the big names, when a really, really well-established sort of art superstar, reaches a certain level, suddenly everything they make is good. They can do no
Yeah,
wrong. So,
yeah,
so again, it's not only perception; it's preconception, as it were. How people view a person who's made it to a certain point, and therefore they must be wonderful. So, I don't know. I think all of it is relevant and all of it is true. Something graphically powerful and strong, if it arrests you and you see, I think it's great. If that, there's nothing wrong with that. And if the same thing works on other levels, and it can be so, then you've got something very special. And
very good.
I don't know. I've made, I don't know, a few pieces over the years that I love to look at again. Quite a lot of them I
Mm.
know.
I guess the word I was looking for was subjective.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, there
yeah.
you go. Well, thanks very much, Stephen. That was really nice talking to you, and a very insightful interview.
And as not well, I hope so. I hope so. And thank
Very
you
much
for
so.
for your interest, Alan. Yeah.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.